My name is Carol Jenkins, and I have the great pleasure of looking out you'll get to see some of these faces again, the most beautiful children and grandchildren in the entire world. I refer to Anne Renee and Gus Jr. as son and daughter number one. I learned from Gus how to raise children from watching him do this. I knew that when you opened the refrigerator and you had a growing boy in the household, you had to have three things: gallons of milk, tons of peanut butter, and loaves of bread. And actually, that turned out to be the key. It was the magic thing. Thank you, Gustav. To Anne Renee and to Gus Jr. and Maria and to the grandchildren here, and to Michael and to Kay, I want you to know that I'm sending you a really huge hug. Hearing the stories and knowing what you did throughout Gus's life, not only in the last phase of it, is just remarkable. You are to be praised for that. As far as I'm concerned, Gus Heningburg lived the nearly perfect life. He came, made a huge impact on the world, built a loving and successful family, managed to care for an army of friends who admired and counted on his wisdom and advice. We should all be so lucky to live our lives so well and to leave so much. It's enormous in terms of what you see in this room today, the impact that he had, the people who've come to speak to testimony to the life and the love that he brought to all of us. Gus lived a life not prescribed by certain expectations. You know, that was the thing that always surprised us. There's a certain way that a black man should exist in the world. You know, that's what people say. You don't have boats, you don't ride horses, you don't travel the world. You're not at ease in your skin, as we heard other people will comment on. That's not what most people prescribe for black men or women in this world. You're supposed to be uncomfortable. You're supposed to be unhappy and striving. You're supposed to not be able to negotiate with the biggest and the best of them. And of course, this is exactly what we know that Gus did. He was a man of the world. He had all of these interests. My children and I benefited from Gus's large reach. My daughter Elizabeth's love of horses came from Gus. And I once even bought a horse myself based on Gus. And he said to me, "What, are you out of your mind?" And then I bought a saddle, and then he tried to teach me how to ride. My foster son, Michael, still to this day, when he heard that Gus had left us, he said, "I loved Gus. Do you remember that day he let me, at 14, drive his yacht?" You know? So that was his impression of what it was. My son, my little son, little Mike, was always so impressed that there was a man who looked exactly like him who was able to do all of these wonderful things in the world. And I think it really gave him the inspiration to be as commanding in his own life as he is. Gus's representation for my daughter Elizabeth. He was the father. Her father died when she was very young. He was the father she didn't have, and he provided an example of what a good father, a strong man, can do and be in your life, and for that I am so grateful. Gus and I became friends, even though our parents were friends in Alabama. I'm from Alabama as well, and our parents were friends, but we became friends when I started co-anchoring with him on Positively Black. I was a reporter at NBC, and he had been in the beginning of that program, and I was thrilled to sit in the chair next to him, because we knew that Gus was the guiding light of that show, which was historic, because what you have to understand is that he understood the media and the impact of it, the power of it. And at that time, the lives of black people were not important, were not meaningful enough to be included in mainstream media. And the shows under Gus's guidance were relevant and necessary for decades as networks continue to exclude the participation and the celebration of the accomplishments of people of color. And as Amiri would say, I'm sure that still exists. So what did you refer to it, the Negroes representing Negroes, or disguised as Negroes, who are in our media today? But Gus Heningburg understood the power of the media and the fact that if you don't have an effective, inclusive media, you really don't have a working democracy, and that remains to be true today. And so he took on that, showing us every single week the people who mattered. What he did for construction, for business, for housing, for politics, he also did for media. And he did it while parenting and grandparenting, which I must say, I think that like many of us, the grandparenting, Gus may have enjoyed a little bit more than the parenting, when those grandkids come along, I mean, he just doted on them, and they became his life. It's not that children are troublesome, not at all. Don't get that impression. But the grandchildren, the light of his life, being a rock-steady touch point for hundreds, if not, from what I hear in this room now, thousands of people along the way. I am grateful to have been one of them. My children and I say thank you, and what I am so grateful for is that I've got, son number one and daughter number one and all of these great grandchildren, to still spend time with and to be with. And I want you to know that I know that he knew at the end that you were exemplary. He was so proud of you all. You are a terrific honor to his memory, and you should know that whatever you got from him, you are doubling and spreading out in the world, and I am so proud of you. And to Kay, too, for your participation. I know that I just saw you guys on internet radio. How cute, and how great programming that was, and we look forward to that, and thank you all so much for that.